I am an immigrant. I went to school in this country, I was raised in this country, and Americans are delusional. Not just as it relates to the plight of the average immigrant, but Americans are delusional as to how great their country actually is and why people sacrifice their lives to come here. It is not, in fact, because it's the greatest country in the world. No matter how much you're indoctrinated to believe this, it's actually false. But there is no immigrant who comes to America if they didn't have to. I know a lot of you think that we love strip malls and school shootings, but believe it or not, the citizens who come from these countries that you guys love to vacation to give up everything to come to this country. My grandma left her 6 children in Jamaica so that she can come to America for better opportunities, not just for herself, but for her entire family. And so she came to New York City to be a live-in nanny to other people's children. And throughout the 50 years that she lived in America, what she wanted the most was to eventually return to her country. And by the time she had saved up all of her money, got her pension, and built her house back in Jamaica, she was only able to enjoy a few years back in her home until she died. She literally gave up her entire life to be here for her entire family. And the same goes for my mom, who sacrificed and gave up so much just so she can come here and make minimum wage, doing a thankless job that Americans would never do, but one that is so necessary in this country, caring for old people, caring for racist.
I don't know. It seems like it's a lot of like entitlement type of energy in the way she speaks. A lot of like, you know, she just speaks like with some anger, like it's some hidden deep hatred for Americans. You know, I'm sorry her grandma came here, worked 50 years and, you know, barely had any money. But there are people who come here and, you know, they work, they gain the right knowledge, they go to school, and, you know, they make something of themselves fairly quickly. This is her like personal experience and her family's personal experience that she's kind of using for immigrants across the board. I know plenty of immigrants who have done very well for themselves in America. Some of them like it here, want to stay here, and some of them want to go back home. It's a little bit of both, but people know that really the reason why people say America is the greatest country in the world is because the amount of opportunity, which is why her family came here, right? They came here for the opportunity. They came here for the fact that, you know, there's plenty of different ways to make money. And just because they took you got to come here. If you don't have no education, nothing like that, then yeah, you got to get the lowest paying job. But it's your job to, outside of that job, you got to read some books. You got to gain some knowledge. You got to go to school. You got to do something. You got to get a trade, get some type of high paying skill. If you don't, yeah, you're going to work for 50 years. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of what it is. We got people here that do the same thing. They get out of school. They don't really do much. They stay in low paying jobs, regular American citizens. They take care of old people. They do whatever, right? They take these low paying jobs and they work for 50, 60 years. And then, you know, they got a few years of retirement before they die, right? But we're going to let her finish, all right? We're going to let her finish.
Racist people who would call her the N-word and would rather die than have a black woman look after them. All of this for her children and her family back home. People do not come to this country unless they absolutely have to. A lot of immigrants have to tolerate a lot by coming to this country. Immigrants are the reason why Americans can eat. And not only eat, but eat at a reasonable price. A lot of the luxuries that you guys consume would only be available to you because of immigrant labor. This country would not have a food culture if it wasn't for immigrants. And I don't know why, for some reason, a lot of you are forgetting that Native Americans are called Native for a reason. 40% of Americans in this country have ancestors who came through Ellis Island. Y'all are not native to this country either. This is a country made up of immigrants. If this was a poor country, no one would be here. If your country didn't help destabilize hundreds of countries around the world, again, no one would be here. And if our own countries were stable, y'all would not see us. We would not be here. And entire industries would shut down. You guys would not be able to sustain yourselves. So y'all really need to humble yourselves and also get over yourself. Because the fact of the matter is that if you're not Native American, you are an immigrant. You come from immigrants.
Hey man, look, she's entitled to her opinion, but it sounds like she's the one that needs to be humble, you know. I'm an American. I always say like America first. I do love multiple other countries. You know, I got lots of friends that are immigrants. I got friends in other countries, but you know, they don't. A lot of them don't really have this mindset that she has. Like she just seems so like entitled and like so unhappy with America. It's like, okay, then why go? You know, you can go and yeah, you can say America did destabilize a lot of other countries. That's probably true, right? But there are also other countries that did that too, whether it's the UK, France, the Dutch, whoever, right? Whatever other countries that came to other places and kind of like took over. But you know, America does help out a lot of these other countries as well, right? You know, us going there to y'all countries is a big part of most of the economies. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like y'all was gonna, especially like the smaller islands, like yeah, y'all could have been somewhat stabilized without what's it called, colonialism and stuff like that. Y'all would have been somewhat stabilized, but it still would have been a lot of y'all wanting to come to America because of the infrastructure we had, because of the like all of the stuff we brought to the world. And the same thing with other countries. You know, first world countries get the most immigration for a reason. So it just seems like she's kind of, you know, mad and kind of getting her stuff off, which is cool, you know, get your stuff off. But it's like at the same time, you're here, your mom came here, and you can act like it. America is not the greatest country in the world. And, you know, that's an opinion, right? That's based off perspective. But when it comes to the best place for opportunity, best place to make money, it has been that, and it probably will be that for a long period of time, because we do have a lot of different freedoms. And to say like, oh, we wouldn't be able to eat without immigrants, that's kind of crazy. You know, we do we bring a lot of food in from other countries, but it's not only immigrants here that are like making the food and all that stuff. And like we like immigrant food. We love Jamaican food, Haitian food, all type of Caribbean food, all type of Latino food from all over the world, right? We love it. But at the same time, it's like, you know, we allowed y'all to be here. Like it should be a little bit more respect, you know, a little bit more. And I do see that. I see that from, you know, there are certain immigrants, like you'll see their content. They're very thankful to be here. They're very thankful to have their citizenship and things like that. But, you know, she just seemed like a little bit bitter, a little bit angry. I don't know. You know, let me know what y'all think about her perspective down in the comments below. Someone said also people wouldn't come here if America didn't destabilize their home country to begin with. And that's the same thing she said. So I'm guessing this guy didn't even watch the whole video. If you're so unhappy with America, go back and fix your country. Millions of Jamaicans are there working on making it a better place. Moving to America for money is just an excuse because you don't want to fix your country. Sorry if I sound rude. The key point is that the U.S. is destroying the countries most people are coming from. If America would just leave these countries alone and return the resources it extracted from these nations, they would be stable and no one would be able to come to the U.S. and no one would come to the U.S. And they talking about, like, you know, all the what if scenarios and this, that, and the third. You know, this guy, he got a South African flag and a Haitian flag, or a woman, South African flag and a Haitian flag in her bio. But you know, to me, it's not even that simple. You know, like she said, if 40% of America is made up of immigrants, then, you know, y'all are talking to yourselves at some point, you know. Sweetheart, I'm willing to bet you never grew up in Jamaica to be talking this negative about a country you are a guest in. Now, just imagine someone invites you to their house as a guest and you come in and start talking shit about someone's home. Yes, America has its flaws, but so does everyone else in other countries in the world. Also, would you conveniently seem to forget that it's not the U.S. responsibility to be taking you and your family in? You also have alternatives of going back to your country if the U.S. is so horrible. See, and you know, like, all she could say was shut the fuck up after that. So you, like, you know, people are giving her good points and she's just kind of just brushing it off. And like, you know, women, a lot of women tend to do that a lot. So we ain't gonna, you know, you gotta take accountability for your own situation at some point. Like, you know, you could have stayed in Jamaica. There's plenty of Jamaicans in Jamaica. I actually talked to a Jamaican before while I was out there, and I asked him, like, yo, you ever went to any other countries? You ever visited any other places? And he's like, I already live in paradise. So it's literally only the ones that want to participate in the rat race of capitalism in the US that actually come here. So it's like, you know, yeah, if you are like, it's a difference if you're seeking asylum and coming here, you know, your home country not safe. Y'all wasn't fleeing safety, y'all was fleeing poverty. So it's different, man. Like, you know, this is definitely a complicated situation, you know, more complicated than she's saying, more complicated than even what I'm saying. You know, I think it's just everybody job to, you know, at least try to understand each other, right? But let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. As always, love y'all. I'm out.